January 1st, 2021. The world stands on a threshold, shivering in the cold light of a new morning. We have survived the first great plague of the digital age, but the wounds are far from healed. In the quiet laboratories of the West, the first vials of hope, mass-produced mRNA vaccines, are being packed into dry ice, ready to be shipped across a planet that has forgotten what it feels like to breathe without fear. But the air is not clear. It is heavy with a different kind of tension. In the United States, the peaceful transfer of power, the very bedrock of the Western democratic myth, is about to face a literal assault. In the East, the silence of the lockdowns is being replaced by the grinding gears of a military buildup. This is the year of the Great Reopening, but it is a reopening into a world that is no longer recognizable. From the frantic trading floors of Wall Street to the desperate gates of Kabul airport, 2021 is the year the new normal is forged in the fires of insurrection, innovation, and abandonment. The mask is slipping. The sensors are tracking every heartbeat. The world context of 2021 is defined by the K-shaped reality. As the year begins, the global economy is a tale of two planets. For the digital elite, 2021 is a gold rush. The stock market is decoupled from reality, fueled by stimulus checks and a speculative fever that turns meme stocks like GameStop and Dogecoin into household names. We are witnessing the financialization of boredom, where millions of people locked in their homes are betting on the collapse of hedge funds. Technologically, the world has made a decade's leap in a single year. Remote everything is no longer a temporary fix. It is a structural shift. This is the year of the NFT, non-fungible tokens, where digital art sells for millions, signaling a desperate attempt to find value in a world of infinite digital duplication. We are obsessed with the metaverse, a concept that promises to port our entire lives into a virtual space, even as the physical supply chain begins to groan under the weight of the great supply chain crunch. From a shortage of microchips to the sight of dozens of cargo ships idling off the coast of California, the physical world is failing to keep up with digital demand. Culturally, the mood is vax hysteria mixed with revenge spending. There is a desperate, manic energy to reclaim the lost year of 2020. However, this is tempered by the Great Resignation, as workers globally begin to question the value of their labor in a world that feels increasingly precarious. The context of 2021 is a world trying to sprint while its legs are still asleep. A world of record-breaking inequality where the wealth of the 10 richest men has doubled while 99% of humanity has seen a decline in income. It is a world of extreme highs and hollow lows, waiting for a return to normal that is never coming. The spark that fundamentally changed the trajectory of 2021 occurred just 6 days into the year. The January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol was the desecration of the temple. It was the inciting event because it exposed the fragility of the world's leading superpower to its own internal rot. For hours, the world watched in stunned silence as a mob, fueled by a year of digital disinformation and political grievance, breached the halls of the American legislature. This wasn't just a riot, it was a stress test that the American system barely passed. It sent a signal to every autocrat in Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran. The American century was over, and the champion of democracy was occupied with its own civil war. This event triggered a massive global information realignment. It led to the unprecedented deplatforming of a sitting U.S. president from major social media networks, sparking a worldwide debate about the power of big tech over the sovereign state. The January 6th shock changed the lens of 2021. Every domestic policy and international alliance was now colored by the question of American stability. It forced the new Biden administration into a posture of restoration, attempting to convince the world that America is back, even as the images of the gallows on the Capitol lawn remained burned into the global psyche. This event ensured that 2021 would be a year of internal reckoning for the West, a year where democracy moved from a settled fact to a contested battleground. The inciting incident proved that the most dangerous border in the world wasn't in Europe or Asia. It was the one running through the center of the American mind. Politics in 2021 was a series of retreats and consolidations. The defining political event was the August abandonment. After 20 years, $2 trillion, and countless lives, the American-led coalition withdrew from Afghanistan. The speed of the collapse was a geopolitical heart attack. In just 11 days, the Taliban swept across the country, culminating in the fall of Kabul on August 15th. The imagery of the desperate evacuation, people clinging to the wheels of departing planes, became the definitive symbol of the end of the forever war era. This was a political realignment of the highest order. It signaled the end of the era of nation-building and American interventionism. The vacuum left behind was immediately felt in the region, as China and Russia moved to engage with the new Taliban government, and the world watched a humanitarian catastrophe unfold in real time. The fall of Kabul shook the NATO alliance to its core, forcing European leaders to openly discuss strategic autonomy, the idea that they could no longer rely on Washington for their security. Meanwhile, in Germany, the Merkel era came to a quiet end after 16 years, as Olaf Scholz took the reins of a new traffic light coalition, signaling a shift in the engine of Europe. In the East, Xi Jinping's Common Prosperity Drive led to a massive crackdown on China's tech and real estate sectors, wiping out trillions in market value to entrench the CCP's control. 2021 was the year that the map of the 21st century was hardened. The liberal dream of an integrated, westernized world was replaced by a new realism, where power was measured by the ability to hold ground and the will to walk away from old commitments. Socially, 2021 was the year of the Great Divide. The primary social event was the global vaccine rollout. It created a new social hierarchy, the vaxxed and the unvaxxed. In the West, the summer of 2021 was supposed to be the summer of love, as vaccine passports allowed people back into stadiums and nightclubs. The Euro 2020 tournament, held in 2021, became a massive collective release of tension, even as it was shadowed by the Delta variant lurking in the crowds. However, this medical miracle was met with a social contagion of distrust. Anti-vaccine protests erupted from Paris to Melbourne, highlighting a deep, visceral rejection of state authority. This was the year the culture war moved into the bloodstream. At the same time, the digital world was experiencing its own social revolution. The GameStop squeeze showed the power of decentralized, internet-born movements to take on the titans of Wall Street. This was the year of retail rebellion, where Reddit threads became more influential than Bloomberg terminals. The social landscape was also defined by the billionaire space race. As Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson touched the edge of space in their private rockets, the social reaction was one of awestruck anger. It highlighted a world where the ultra-wealthy could escape the planet while the rest of humanity struggled with a pandemic and a heating world. 2021 was also the year of the Great Resignation, a quiet social strike where millions of workers decided that the hustle culture of the 2010s was no longer worth the cost. It was a year of social decoupling, where people began to find their identities in smaller, more radicalized digital tribes rather than in a shared national story. As 2021 entered its second half, the recovery didn't just stall, it escalated into a global bottleneck. The defining escalation was the supply chain snap. It began in March when the Ever Given container ship wedged itself across the Suez Canal, blocking 12% of global trade for 6 days. This wasn't just a meme, it was a stress fracture that exposed the fragility of the just-in-time world. By autumn, the snap had turned into a global energy crisis. Natural gas prices in Europe soared to record highs, and power cuts in China shuttered factories. The escalation was the realization that our globalized world was a house of cards held together by aging microchips and overworked truckers. Simultaneously, the Delta variant escalated the pandemic, proving that the virus could evolve faster than our policy could adapt. Hospitals in India and Brazil reached a breaking point, with oxygen running out in the streets. A visceral reminder that the pandemic was not over just because the West had vaccines. Nature, too, escalated its offensive. The Pacific Northwest heat dome saw temperatures in Canada reach a staggering 49.6 degrees Celsius, literally melting infrastructure and killing hundreds. In Germany and China, once-in-a-thousand-year floods devastated entire provinces. The escalation was the shift from climate change to climate chaos. Every problem was now compounding. The chip shortage raised car prices, the energy crisis raised heating costs, and the extreme weather destroyed the crops needed to feed a hungry world. By the end of 2021, the momentum was toward a permanent state of crisis. The stakes were no longer about winning the year, but about surviving the Great Reset. Despite the chaos, 2021 was a year of absolute ingenuity. The greatest high was the mRNA miracle. The fact that humanity could design, test, and distribute highly effective vaccines in under a year was a civilizational win. It wasn't just about COVID-19, it was the birth of a new platform for medicine that promised to revolutionize the fight against cancer and HIV. In 2021, we proved that when the species is pushed to the brink, our capacity for innovation is limitless. In space, 2021 was the year of Mars. 3 separate missions from the US, China, and the UAE reached the Red Planet. The high of the year was the flight of Ingenuity, the first helicopter to fly on another planet. It was a Wright brothers moment for the 21st century, a triumph of engineering that pushed the boundaries of what we thought was possible. Later in the year, the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope, the most powerful observatory ever built, was a high of international cooperation, a golden eye that would eventually look back to the birth of the first stars. In sports, the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, held in 2021, provided a moment of catharsis. Despite the empty stands, the Games were a testament to human resilience. The high was the story of Simone Biles, who prioritized her mental health over a gold medal, sparking a global conversation that took society forward by destigmatizing the invisible struggle. We also saw the high of the first ever space tourist flight with an all-civilian crew, Inspiration 4, which raised over $200 million for childhood cancer research. These highs took society forward because they were human-centric wins. They were moments where we used our highest technology for our highest ideals. People believed that if we could land a helicopter on Mars and rewrite our own genetic code to fight a plague, there was no problem, climate, poverty, or disease, that we couldn't eventually solve. The lows of 2021 were defined by global inequality. The vaccine apartheid was the low point of the year, the realization that while the West was discussing booster shots, less than 1% of people in low-income countries had received a single dose. This was a moral failure that allowed the virus to continue mutating, eventually leading to the Omicron variant. It was the low point of global solidarity, a world that could share a meme in seconds but could not share a life-saving medicine in months. In the United States, the low was the death toll. 2021 saw more COVID-19 deaths in the US than 2020, despite the availability of vaccines. This was a failure of truth, a tragedy born of disinformation and political polarization that saw people dying in ICUs while denying the existence of the virus. The lows were also found in the mass graves of the climate crisis. The famine in Madagascar, the first to be officially attributed to climate change rather than conflict, was a warning from the future that we largely ignored. In the UK, the low was the post-Brexit reality of empty supermarket shelves and fuel shortages, a self-inflicted low that highlighted the fragility of modern trade. But the deepest low was the abandonment of women in Afghanistan. Taliban saw a generation of girls lose their education. This was a low of credibility. The moment the West's values-based foreign policy was exposed as a hollow slogan. 2021 ended with a ledger of loss that showed we were a two-tiered humanity. We moved in the wrong direction by letting our borders define who was worthy of protection and who was expendable. The damage was long-term, creating a trust deficit between the global North and South that would haunt the 2020s. 2021 will be remembered as the year the transition ended and the new reality began. It was the historical turning point where we realized there was no back to normal. It was a lesson in the price of fragility. We learned that our global systems, trade, energy, and health, were stretched so thin that they could no longer absorb the shocks of a destabilized world. This year saw the death of global policing. The fall of Kabul marked the definitive end of the American century and the start of a multipolar chaos. Why was it a turning point? Because it marked the physicality of the digital. We realized that even in a world of NFTs and Zoom calls, we still need ships, chips, and workers. What ended was the illusion of infinite growth without consequences. What began was the age of resilience, where nations and corporations began to de-risk and onshore. 2021 reshaped history by proving that the culture war was more powerful than the common good. It was the year we stopped being a global village and started being a global archipelago, a collection of isolated islands of wealth, ideology, and survival. The impact of 2021 is the very foundation of our lives today. The onshoring of microchip production and the sovereign supply chains we now have were born in the bottlenecks of 2021. The hybrid work world we live in is a direct result of the Great Resignation and the remote leap of that year. We see the impact in our AI-augmented healthcare, as the mRNA platforms of 2021 have now evolved into personalized cancer therapies. However, we also see the darker impact. The trust deficit in institutions that exploded during the vaccine mandates is the baseline of our modern political discourse. The multipolar world of 2026, with a more assertive China and a fragmented West, was solidified in the vacuum left by the fall of Kabul. We live in a world of permanent inflation and energy transitions, a reality we first felt during the supply chain snap. 2021 taught us that the future is vulnerable, unequal, and accelerated. We are the children of that acceleration, navigating a world where the only normal is the unprecedented. 2021 was the year we stopped waiting for the world to return and started learning how to live in the one that remained. It was a year of mRNA miracles and Kabul nightmares, a year where the new normal was finally exposed for what it was, a world of extreme highs and brutal, unnecessary lows. But as the dust of 2021 settles, 2022 is already at the find out what happens next. If this year surprised you, challenged what you thought you knew, or reminded you of something you lived through, leave a comment with what it meant to you. If this series helps you understand the present through the past, consider liking the video. And if you want every year exposed, subscribe to the channel. History isn't just something we watch, it's something we interpret, and something many of us lived through. Another Year Exposed is coming soon. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.